What's up, YouTubers? It's time for the knife of the year. The Zermeno Tyr is not going to be my knife of the year. I actually reviewed this one last year. I did have it heavily modded this year, and that's for me what I loved about this year is I had a chance to take what I considered probably the greatest frame lock folder for me that I have experienced in over I don't know 200-300 total knives, and I had a chance to utilize Naftanium, Rodney, and then to do this frame mod. He had this customized with his spiral frag pattern. Absolutely awesome. And then Sawtooth Dave actually did, well, I guess he's now Barefoot Bruiser, man. Was Sawtooth Dave, though. He did this compound ground and then this wedge on there. So that was part of, that to me is what this is about. This is about community. It's going to be about my top knives of the year with an ultimate winner. I have not decided. As it was, I only actually reviewed 6 folders and 4 fixed blades. Did a ton of first impressions and kind of handling for a day or two, but my channel is very different. I don't go for, I'm never going to be I have the first chance to carry this and get a review out the day that it's released. Don't have that. That's not what my channel is about anyway. It's about, I generally carry a folder or a fixed blade, utilize it for a month or two, and then I say, you know what, I kind of know how this one behaves in various situations, and you know what, I'm ready for a review. Plus, I did have a very severe crash, bicycle crash this year that kind of put me off my rocker for about 3 months. I'm still suffering just a little bit of residual effects even still, and I'm working through those. I'll go ahead and link a photo of my shoulder. You can get a look at what a shoulder or a collarbone broken into 3 pieces looks like. Don't want to do that at the beginning, but that will be linked at the end, and I'll put that. And I always do chapters for my annual Knife of the Year review. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this, but let's go ahead and take a quick memory trip down, or a quick trip down memory lane. 2 years ago in 2022, first time I did one, my Knife of the Year was the Jack Wolf Knives Midnight Jack. This knife won for the reason of it literally took excellence in design by Ben Belkin, customer service, and everything. I mean, this just took modern materials and really married it with a traditional slip joint design. It's excellent. It's so ridiculously thin. If you take a look at that, this thing is the only knife I've ever measured that is negative behind the edge, thickness behind the edge. Obviously not, but it basically feels like it's 0 behind the edge. So it's, you know what? It was a winner for many reasons. Let's go ahead and shoot forward to 2023's Knife of the Year, and it was the Civivi Sokoke. And oh, by the way, my knives don't have to have come out in that year. It's just the year that I review them. Again, I was like, to try to keep up with every knife that's released in a year, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not what my channel's about. Mine's about, in a sense, finding the best of the best in an evergreen fashion, meaning it's a knife that can exist till the end of time, and will be excellent. This knife, the Sokoke, has multiple deployment methods, front flipper and thumb studs. The action is absolutely awesome. It's micarta. It's contoured micarta with an inset. It's an inset liner lock, so it does it. I mean, it just. This for me, let's jump in. Oh, actually, before we jump into this, I always talk about, for me, kind of what were the top 5 stories of the year in terms of in the knife community, knife world. So I'll pause it here and we'll jump into those. All right, first story of the new year for me, or not the new year, sorry, first story of 2024. It did happen fairly early, I think, maybe May. This is a Survive Knife, Survive Knives knife, who didn't survive. I think the story, I won't go into much depth, but you probably know what happened with roughly, I had no idea, and I think a lot of people didn't know how many knives that Survive Knives had pre-orders for that were prepaid for. It was literally, it was until Heavyset Tactical John basically went out there and visited, and essentially guy had to fess up. There were like over 3,000 orders at an average of $300 per knife. There was like nearly just short of $1 million of knives that went unfulfilled. And for me, this really the lesson learned due to the Survive Knives thing was really know who's behind a knife, before you basically pre-buy. Or in the case of Gary Creeley, I'm speaking of Creeley blades. I'll go ahead and say goodbye to the Survive Knives. But Gary Creeley just requires a minimal, but a portion of down payment, but not a full prepay. It might take 9 months to a year to get a knife. This is his omnivore kitchen knife, and actually this kind of ties together my connection with Heavy Set Tactical is for whatever roughly 10% of the cost of a knife. You have to put that down. Then when he's ready to deliver, the actual one is made. You send that money in a year later or whatever. So some people waited 2 and 3 years for Survive Knives to get theirs. Didn't happen. I actually got this knife on a trade with a little bit of cash difference with John at Heavy Set Tactical, who wanted a Les George VSEP. I had 2, and I was like, I've been wanting one of these. It's a 10-month wait. But yeah, the omnivore, that's what this is. And yeah, Survive Knives, I do believe the quick and hasty exit, and really what John helped or tried to do to help out was definitely one of the stories, certainly well known. All right, the number 3 story of the year, and these are not in order. These are just 5 things that I think kind of dominated the knife world. HRC. These 4 knives, this is the Orion Knife Solaris, the Kunwu Padre, the Bushcrafter Chew from Bark River, and the Condor, Waterlore, I think, or Aqualore. It's 14C28N, 14C28N, Vanax, CPM 3V steel. I sent all of these and a bunch more to Billy and Courtney, who did HRC testing. Hardness Rockwell is basically specifically the C scale of hardness Rockwell. Things like aluminum aren't measured in HRC. I think they're measured in like the HRE scale because they're so soft. And basically what it refers to is, it's basically a logarithmic scale that you push a diamond into a metal, and what's the relative proportion that has to go in. Higher number, extremely, much greater hardness, which results in better edge retention. It doesn't speak to some of the other qualities, sharpenability, toughness, things like that, beating, able to basically take beatings, stuff like that. So for the most part, I don't know exactly what these were. I do recall this one I think was 61, the Vanax. This one was 51 because it didn't do so well, and we weren't sure, Billy wasn't. I'm not sure either if they differentially heat treat it, or Condor in El Salvador just doesn't heat treat it really well, but that ended up 51 HRC, 61. This one was in the 60 range. And then this one I want to say was a typical kind of what you get for Chinese 14C28N. I want to say this one was 59-ish. So, you know what? I think HRC definitely was one of the dominant stories of the year. And dare I say, nitpicking or snobbery. For me, I'm not a huge snob. This one, I'll be interesting to see when I actually kind of field test it to see if it is something where it was just differentially heat treated and the edge is actually hard. We're going to find that out in time, but I will say that this Bark River did very, very good this year. Haven't done a full review on that yet. Vanax did just fine, and I reviewed this some years ago. So that's it. So the answer to HRC, without having to worry about it, like China does terrible, heat treatments to steels or whatever, there is a solution out there for people that definitely don't want to get involved in that. I don't really get involved in that. Like I said, I'm not a snob. I kind of used to be in the early parts of the game before I knew what the hell I was doing. But the answer to that is just to basically, you can still get the great fidgety capabilities that you like. This is a button lock flipper with thumb studs. That's the Civivi Elementum utility knife. This is the Riot Exo, so you get your nice, basically gravity fidgetiness to it. And this is the O knife, I think UI or whatever, UL. It's the utility, utility. Fun, and you basically you can just replace those so that you can. Oh, this uses an access lock. You can basically enjoy your knives and some of the functionality in terms of fidgetiness and so forth. And you can destroy the blades, and you just use replaceable blades for them. And they have differing means of replacing the blade. Some take longer than others, etc. So that I think is I think an acceptable answer to, you know what, I don't want to have to resharpen, a high steel or a high hardness steel if I accidentally knock it into, the fender of my car or some concrete because I'm cutting. I won't say carelessly, but I'm just cutting and utilizing the tool. So these are, I think, an acceptable answer to, not having to get caught up in the HRC because you use them until they're done. You can flip them over. If you want to, you can resharpen these. They're usually probably 440C or something like that. 440A, probably 440A. Who knows? But it is a razor sharp blade that you can go ahead and just throw away, and you don't have to worry about resharpening it. USA versus the world. These are two American-made knives. This is the Benchmade Bug Out, and this is the Hogue Deca, that I consider two of the finest examples of a reasonably priced American-made knife that has good materials, good construction. It can last you a lifetime. It really can. So this Deca has, I forget what this is called, but this is an original goat's. It's an acrylic form, and then this one also has replaced the FRN scales with titanium. So it's a full tie knife. This particular knife, though, ends up being about $300. Even if you don't get it as configured, you just get a basic Benchmade Bug Out. It's going to be, I got to be honest, I haven't checked the prices recently, but my gut feel is it's probably going to be in the range closer to $200 than $100. And a Hogue Deca on sale is probably going to be similar. And really what it comes down to is China versus the world. Is China has modern materials. They have access to micarta, modern steels, stainless steels, good heat treatment protocols. This, again, is Nitro V steel, and they have designers that are feeding them good designs. So in the end, it really comes down to China's able to, compete at just about every single level. Let me go ahead and move those out of the way. I mean, that's why this one won the knife of the year. I was like, geez, for $70, comparing against, knives that are closer to $200. And then here's one more that I think it would compare very, very similarly with, and this would be the TRM Atom. Very similar. This one's just a little bit thinner blade, higher end steel, but otherwise you're talking about micarta and similar construction and make, and that's like a $249 knife, versus this. So obviously, I'm not here to talk politics and so forth. Let's jump into some of the bruisers here. This is the MKT Medford knife and tool on belay. Got that from Chuck Nunface. I'm going to bring this one out because this is, I think, a knife that does kind of bridge that gap of reasonably priced but excellent fit, finish, quality, and so forth. But in the bruisers, I got this from Sawtooth Dave by way of Beard of Doom, and this is the District 9 Knives Catastrophe. So it's a bruiser, and I think it would probably handle bruising, so to speak, beat up activities for it. It's got very thick blade stock, and this is so Chinese knives. Chinese produced knives are the milling on this one, the complexity. You watch Dave's take apart of this knife, and it's pretty complex, and the price, I think those aren't made anymore, but the price on that one was, I want to say, in the $450 to $500 range. With a lot more complex milling. This on belay, I think these go for in the 500 range. So I think Medford knife and tool is reasonably priced. You get kind of a base configured one without, fancy scales and flame anodized and, the apocalyptic looks and all that. And you can still get a Medford for a reasonable price. So in that range, and like I said, this one has been customized fairly drastically. Also, it has a replacement clip. I kind of forgot about that. But you can get a base, Zermeno Tyr. I think these still sell for, I want to say I saw them for $450. So it's a reasonable price range. But even in the bruiser range, they're coming down in cost. So China versus the world. And then and it's not just USA. I mean, this is a Boker knife made in Germany. And this was about $169 for just the knife. It does have some higher end materials, ironwood, and then copper integrated bolster. So that is an example of Germany is suffering from the makings of China. We'll bring in China at the end there. This is a kind of a multi-tool, MKM out of Italy, Maniago knife makers. And then you have, this is a multi-knife set. I don't know my readers on. We'll just pull out one. This is Great Eastern Cutlery. So those are all knives that, made in various countries. And if you can get a Great Eastern Cutlery, one like this, I bought this and used on Apostle P's used sale. I mean, it's like $195 or whatever. But enter in, like $100 knife, half the price in terms of some of the capabilities. This is a semi-multi-tool. This is the Advanced Knife Bro Stumplifter made by QSP. Modern Materials 154 cm stainless steel. Love this knife, but it really does. When you have a country that's able to subsidize or willing to subsidize because the owners of makers of said products don't really have a vested interest in, or they don't have a vested capability to utilize from the profit, they're going to live decently, people that work at this manufacturing, but the owners of this is, in the end, it comes down to it's China. So on every front, they're starting to move into fixed blades, probably pretty well made fixed blades, and it really comes down to is, can USA and other countries maintain price competitiveness? In the bruiser market, I find that they are. In the kind of the folders like slip joints and just folders with action, it's getting tougher and tougher for the other countries to be able to compete against them based on that price. And the capabilities they're kind of joining. So I don't know. I don't have the answers. I think Billy and Courtney did a great justification or understanding of what does it cost to make a knife over at Apex Alchemy. I'll link that if I remember below with this particular section's bookmark in the or a chapter, I should say. So yeah, China versus the world has been, ever since Dick Nixon was president, will be and is now and will always probably be on the table in terms of an issue. And the last of the five for me of the kind of five big stories, this is CPM Rex 121, the undisputed king of edge retention for steels. Who knows? I think this is like 71, 72, while maintaining a stable edge. HRC. Oops. Whoa. Sorry. Gotta move this back. It's the bad news was, and it was dropped right at the end of the year on Dr. Laren Thomas's Knife Steel Nerds Instagram, where they issued it, but CPM is, I forget what they're located in, maybe Pennsylvania, but they issued a upcoming warning that they're going to possibly be laying off up to 180 people and maybe closing their doors on the Crucible Particle Metallurgy steels that we all love. CPM Rex 121, Dr. Laren Thomas invented in conjunction with them. These knives are both Magna Cut, which was one of the top stories of last year, where it achieved the quadrifecta of capabilities of good edge retention, easy sharpenability, stainlessness, and toughness. So it could take shock. Made it great for fixed blades, but just so happened to be that I like it as a folding blade. Knife Steel 2, not my favorite, but I still like it. And unfortunately for us, we can cross our fingers and hopefully that CPM, Crucible Particle Metallurgies, does not close their doors. If they do, we're gonna have to find alternatives possibly. I do know that Niagara, who actually forms a lot of their steels, I think is going to be able to retain rights and continue to make what those are. But some of that particle metallurgy process might just die on the vine in terms of in the USA. So that's kind of a sad story to end on, but I think it's hard to deny it's one of the top 5 stories-ish of the year in the knife world. So let's get started. That's what you're here for, right? We don't want to hear all that political bullshit. We want to know what your knives of the year were. So, all right, we're going to jump into it. In the slip joint category, again, I did a kind of a smaller number of knife reviews this year, but we have the Advanced Knife Bro Stumplifter. This is kind of a multi-tool. Definitely, it has lots of capabilities. I will, yeah, check my channel out. You can look at them, the full reviews of them. I'll just go over them. And then this is the Boker Barlow with integrated copper bolsters and desert ironwood, using a traditional kick and not a stop pin, as I believe, yeah, this one has a stop pin down there for the walk and talk. It was relatively easy. As much as I love this as a multi-tool, big, heavy, it's kind of bulky and so forth. Love it, but it wasn't even anywhere really in the kind of the class. And this one was reasonably priced. I found it on sale for, I want to say it was like 100. I don't know. It's been so long since I reviewed these, but yeah, this is a very good knife, made in Solingen, Germany, by Boker. Has absolutely glassy but beautiful sound, walk and talk. Oh, it's just really everything about this knife was a joy to carry, and it ended up just looking beautiful, forming an awesome patina. So yeah, my winner of the slip joint category is the Boker Barlow copper integrated bolster. Moving along, so we get to go right to the folder category. Well, the non-slip joint. I didn't really differentiate a higher end versus a lower end. I only did 6 total folders, and you just saw 2 of them, which were the slip joints. I'm gonna go ahead and bring out all 4 of the regular folders. This is the Emerson knife CQC7 Mitch. But wait, isn't that like a 10, 20-year-old knife? It may be. I don't know. It's the knives that I reviewed for the year. The CQC7 was very good. It uses washers. I think they're called Nylotron. It has amazing action. After you use it, I did buy this used, but I reviewed it as a used knife. I also replaced the scales, the very very good and grippy G10 with shutter dugs. So yeah, the CQC7. My only complaint about this one, why I don't think would win, is because they put the one-sided chisel bevel edge on the wrong side. I don't know. I think you should be able to order it left-handed. This is designed for left-handed, where the chisel edge goes away from you. Kind of the only kind of serious complaint. So I could tell you this knife is not in the running. The final 3 that are in the running, though. First one is the American Blade Works Model 2. This is a beautiful, gorgeous sheep's cliff. Kind of got that straight edge, but sheep's footy thickness out here on the tip. Beautiful milling. I did carry this a lot. Scratched the heck out of that pocket clip. Really liked it. Just a one-trick pony. It just is a flipper. Was my only kind of complaint on this one, and I think if some other deployment method, I might like it a little bit better. Then the next one we're going to do is the TRM Shadow. This is kind of was a hard one for me to get a hold of ever since they came out. But this is Three Rivers manufacturing take on the Axis lock. Very, very good. No complaints on that. A little bit pricey, I found, for just given the fact that it's G10, but not ridiculously pricey. I forgot what it was. I really don't remember the costs on these. And then the last one is the Kunwu Padre. This is the knife that I kind of touted as, and I think they designed it as a custom knife factory Evo killer, in terms of thin, slicey, ridiculously thin at the tip. Good steel. This particular one they used was Vanax. I did send this one out to Billy for HRC testing, and I believe it came back at 61, right near 61 where they documented. So yeah, I didn't really have any problems with any of these. I think any of these, are a worthy winner in a given year. For myself, though, the Kunwu Padre just basically nipped out the Three Rivers Shadow, and really it came down to, I do prefer an Axis lock because of its ambidexterity to a frame lock. This particular one's a frame lock. They later came out with one that is an Axis lock, I believe. And so I was like, oh, darn it, I bought too early. No complaints, though. I do love a frame lock. It's full titanium, not G10, priced close to, it's like $50 more, I think, than this one. Both super thin and slicey, but in the end, it really just came down to the materials in use, and everything about this one was excellent. It is an excellent, I think, yeah, is this one? Oh, no, I think I could, but it's got multiple deployment methods. Really appreciate that. The blade was amazing. It's never going to rust in my lifetime, or very very unlikely unless I guess maybe soak it in, I don't know, sulfur dioxide or something diluted with water. Something like that is going to possibly, but Vanex is definitely a very high-end steel, very stainless, and this one behaved great. The edge maintained for a whole month. I stropped it up very quickly, and really that's why the Kunlun Padre, especially with its action, full titanium construction, was the winner of the folders. In the fixed blade category, let me go ahead and move these aside. I will just do them in order. First ejected here is going to be the TRC South Pole. Excellent all-rounder blade. What more can be said about TRC knives out of Lithuania than their fit and finishing is second to none. Literally, their prices go a little bit up there, but when you kind of hold one in hand, you understand. You're like, oh yeah, I get it. Everything is essentially, as far as production goes, perfect. This particular one was like $350-ish or so. But the South Pole was just a little bit thicker for my tastes than I think could have been. And just a smidgen thinner. I think I would have liked it a little bit better. It didn't have a convex edge. It was, just a good V-edge. So a good all-rounder, great for camp. Wasn't super excellent at handling wood and so forth. In terms of my kind of final two knives, the finalists. The first one is kind of a new production. It's in process, and this is the Raptora by Apex Alchemy Knives. I knew when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I could just tell, because I know that it really has similar size hands to me. The designer, Billy Ford, is the designer primarily, of course with assistance by Courtney as well. And who knows, maybe Courtney even designs it. Billy's kind of the front man, though, for Apex Alchemy. And I saw this blade, and I knew the design, the shape, and everything for functional utility. It was going to be excellent. It's actually beautiful. Not a production knife, per se. They don't make a run of 200 of these. It's like, I got to pick this particular one with G10 on it. But it was 15N20, toughest knife steel on earth. It actually, oh yeah, I even still have it. Oh, let me move this out of the way. Yeah, this is the nail that it actually partially cut through, probably about maybe a third the way through, and then it just bent it and destroyed it. I was able to actually relatively easy. Took a little bit of time, but not too hard. There's one little small glint there. Able to get out that the roll on the edge. And so the Apex Alchemy Raptora. And then the last one is this is the Phobos knives for operators by operators. This is the Tier 1. This one was quite a surprise to me. I very first used it as a chopper to tear down my Christmas tree from 2023, and it wasn't really good because the handle is kind of thin, small, and I was like, oh yeah, it can kind of slide out of your hand. It didn't, but I could see how it could. And so on first use, I didn't particularly love the knife. I was like, oh yeah, not a very good chopper. I'll go ahead and move this one out of the way. But then I took it to camp, used it a couple more times, used it a few more times, and I was like, oh, I get it. This is an all-rounder plus. This one, it has a V-edge, so it doesn't handle wood most amazingly. But, I'm not going to go through the whole review, but other than that, everything was designed for it. When you watch the video with Eric Hansen, the designer, and you realize that this is designed for boot carry, therefore it's thin, slim, and so forth, and the sheath is excellent for it, for said carry. It's an all-rounder. It's not going to break. Tough man to cut steel, but easy enough to sharpen in the field and so forth. The handling of wood as a cutter was sufficient, but man, the handling of fire was off the charts. So in the end, really what it came down to for me was just the total utility out of the knife, especially in a fixed blade. The Phobos Tier 1 nudged out the AAK the Raptora here. I still love this as an everyday carry. I'm not going to everyday carry this, but this one I would absolutely and will absolutely again. Just absolutely loved it. But it does get nudged out by the Phobos Tier 1 as far as just the total design. Every single thing from tip has been thought out, including, things I didn't even talk about in my review. Like, there's basically jimping, or if you will, or texturing inside, cut inside the micarta for handling of the knife so it doesn't slip out of your hands. You can literally fling it around and so forth. And you just, everything about it. So the winner of the fixed blade is, in fact, the Phobos Tier 1. All right, we're here to the finals. There can only be one. Of course, just like the Highlander, there can only be one champion. For me, of course, this is my knife of the year. It's probably not going to coincide with a single other knife reviewer out there. Again, my channel is focused a little bit differently. Thank you to all the subscribers. If you made it this far, you just jumped here to see the win. I do thank you very much. It's what drives me to do this. I hope that it's useful, if not entertaining, my quirky sense of humor and so forth. And I get a good variety, even though I'm not a massive number of knives. I do slip joints, I do folders with action, on bearings and washers, and I do fixed blades. And you won't find a lot of channels that really do kind of balance that out. I do find that mine does for the most part. So, some years we have the final 5. This is just the final 3. The slip joint winner was the Boker Barlow. It's excellent at N690 stainless steel. Super finishing on that thing. Really loved it as a slip joint. It's absolutely, I find, in league with some of the best Jack Wolf knives. Minus a few rough spots on it, but desert ironwood and pins, I don't know how well those go together. So that's my slip joint. The Kunwu knives, Padre, I think this is really one of this is an evergreen knife that's not going to be going away. It's going to exist forever as long as the CKF Evo is out there, and people, I think, will continue to buy this one. It's really truly an excellent knife. 61 Rockwell hardness on that Van Axe, never going to rust on you. And then the last one is the Phobos knives fixed blade here, the Tier 1 BC specifically. I might just call it Tier 1 in the kind of showdown of fixed blades. So for myself, I thought it was going to be a very easy pick this year. When I did the full review on the Kunwu Padre, I was just like, yep, it has everything. Comfort in hand, good grip, texture, full titanium action, multiple use, good stainless steel, good heat treat. Every single thing about this told me that this knife was going to be my knife of the year, until I stepped away from my initial use of the Phobos Tier 1. Slip joint is very good. That's just not it for me this year. And the Kunwu Padre, even despite all the greatness that it has, worthy of being a champion, absolutely. But for me, the Phobos Tier 1 BC, its use of Magna Cut was perfect. The design of every single thing on this was thought well through, from the swedge to this, I forget what this one's called, like a Persian swedge, is designed to help it not break if it gets in a twisting situation. Its use of a notch right here, a 90-degree notch, so that it's comfortable all around there. Everywhere else around there, super comfortable on your hand, doesn't dig into it. The best fire scraping notch ever in history. Jimping that has grip to it, but has been softened down a little bit, can take your thumbs on either side, or even in a full, in a full saber grip, just like that. It's incredible. The finish on this Magna Cut blade with the stone wash was polished after that. Again, essentially perfection. The fact that it's built for left and right hand side bow drill divot. I'm going to try that out in 2025, in the new year. The micarta, again, would I have liked it to be a little bit thicker, because I don't do boot carry and I don't use it as a combat knife, but when you understand what it's for, it's like, oh, okay. And if you kind of go from a hammer grip like this to a more natural, which is your fingers flange out like that, it actually fits perfect. It feels and fits perfect. Down to the pommel. The pommel is shaped in such a way that it's gonna be a serious attitude adjuster with that little point versus it just being flat. Every single thing about this knife was essentially perfect. Like I said, if I were just to design this for me, I would choose the Tier 1 C, which just has a bigger handle, thicker handle. But as designed for what it did, the purpose, like I said, the heat treat was solid in the in the 60s for Magna, the 61, 62. And it represented that too when I beat the heck out of this against trees, which runs up against little pebbles. And it took one little tiny chip, strop this thing, and just minus literally probably a half of a millimeter chip on it. The blade was perfect. So for myself, the Phobos Knives Tier 1 BC is the knife of the year. Again, I appreciate everybody who does like and subscribe. We'll see what the year 2025 has in hold. I definitely have a lot of knives that I did not get to because of my bike crash. And speaking of, I will go ahead and link at the very end here a quick picture of my shoulder so you can see if you want to. But turn away if you don't. Not that anybody's even made it this far in the video, but you'll get to see what a shoulder kind of looks like when it's been broken into three. Do take care, and I hope 2025 brings you lots of joy. Take care.